There's a Tamil proverb that says, what is unbent by age 5 is unbendable at age 50. We're going to look today at Edward Snowden, at the Grammy Awards, at some singers, and see how they're trying to bend the conscience of adults and children alike. God save us. This is the voice of resistance.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Edward Snowden is back in the news along with the NSA spying scandal. A lot there to teach us. Mr. Snowden recently did an interview with a German television news outlet, and you can see lengthy excerpts of that interview online if you are so inclined. Let me bring you up to speed on what is new and exciting, and also give some lessons that are critical to all of us. First of all, Mr. Snowden has said that he would come back to the United States if he was granted amnesty and clemency. Eric Holder, our Attorney General, has said, no way. You come back, you're going to face the long arm of the law. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said, well, you don't have to worry about staying here for just a year, Mr. Snowden. You can stay here indefinitely. And so it appears that that is what's going to happen. Mr. Snowden is currently learning to speak Russian, and evidently it's going to become his new homeland, at least for the foreseeable future. Some of the newer allegations that have been swirling in the news for the past 24 hours involve massive data collecting from American and foreign intelligence agencies on the personal accounts of Facebook and YouTube users, including passwords, associations, who their friends are, the whole 9 yards. This is a massive breach of personal privacy and liberty, not just of American citizens, but British citizens, German citizens, etc. And Snowden also told the interviewer that Angela Merkel, the leader of Germany, is not the only German official who the U.S. has been spying on. Let's play a couple of clips. Evidently, Mr. Snowden is worried about being assassinated by the U.S. government, perhaps with good cause.
Are significant threats, but I sleep very well. There was an article that came out in an online outlet called BuzzFeed, where they interviewed officials from the Pentagon, from the National Security Agency, and they gave them anonymity to be able to say what they wanted. And what they told the reporter was that they wanted to murder me. These individuals, and these are acting government officials, they said they would be happy, they would love to put a bullet in my head, to poison me as I was returning from the grocery store, and have me die in the shower.
Well, if he dies in his shower, we'll have a good idea who did it. But more importantly, he commented on President Obama's recent speech, which was a non-speech, regarding reining in the NSA. Here's what Mr. Snowden said.
The speech of Obama recently, the beginning of a serious regulation?
It was clear from the president's speech that he wanted to make minor changes to preserve authorities that we don't need. The president created a review board from officials that were personal friends, from national security insiders, former deputy of the CIA, people who had every incentive to be soft on these programs and to see them in the best possible light. But what they found was that these programs have no value. They've never stopped a terrorist attack in the United States.
So, friend, the simple fact is that the NSA, with this massive intrusion into our lives, has not successfully stopped one terrorist attack in America as a result of it. And more tragically, the Sarnoff brothers, with their terrorist bombing in Boston, were actually contacted the good old-fashioned way by Russian authorities who said, we have data on these guys. You need to watch them. They're dangerous. And the U.S. government said, we've got more important things to do. We're gathering internet accounts, cell phone accounts, texting from every American citizen. We can't worry about two Muslims who have been hanging around with some radicals in Europe because you say so. What I'd like to do is to read to you portions of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Amendments to our Bill of Rights. It appears to me that the average American is so woefully entrenched in ignorance about our history, ignorance about the definitions of liberty, ignorance about what is at stake if we do in fact become a police state, that it's worth it to all of us to go back to foundational principles and to look at what our founders fought for, and some of whom died for, so that we could be a free people, not living under the iron fist of a police state. The 3rd Amendment says, no soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Some people think it's a reach, and maybe it is, to say that what is going on is a violation of the 3rd Amendment. But I would argue, at least for the sake of discussion, that the ability of the government, that they are doing right now, to watch all of us in our homes is tantamount to having a soldier in all of our homes. At least it's cut from the same cloth. Let's look at the 4th Amendment and the 5th Amendment, and then consider the words of Benjamin Franklin and how bread and circuses have just stolen the love of liberty and vigilance from the average American. But first, we've got to pay the bill, so we'll take a commercial break. I'll be right back. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Here's a pop quiz. What do the 4th and 5th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution, to our Bill of Rights, what do they say? What rights granted to us from our Maker do they safeguard? Do you know? I'm going to read the whole 4th Amendment to you in a small portion of the 5th, and you tell me if the NSA's spying program might just violate these amendments. Here's the 4th Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Now I'm going to pick this apart, but I submit to you that the average freshman in high school, for that matter, the average freshman in college, maybe the average 7th grader, could see that there has been, let's say, an unreasonable search of our texts, of our Facebook accounts, of our internet accounts, of our phone calls and our phone logs. I mean, all of these things the government has admitted that they're taking from us, right? And the amendment says the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. Okay, our papers would include our correspondence, against unreasonable searches and seizures. Can any thinking person really say that it's reasonable? Reasonable, because the opposite of unreasonable is reasonable. And the government is forbidden from an unreasonable search. Can any thinking person tell me that it's reasonable what the government is doing to us? That the seizure and the searching of our private correspondence is reasonable? They've seized it. They've got it stored at NSA headquarters and heaven knows how many computer sites around the world. It says it can't be violated, shall not be violated. And no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause. Probable cause is a legal term that means, hey, I've got a really good reason to suspect so-and-so. Say the Sarnoff brothers up in Boston. And I'm going to swear an oath and I want a search warrant to listen to their phone or to read their email or to go into their house or to follow them or to see who they're hanging out with. In other words, that's a part of legitimate law enforcement. But there has to be a probable cause. A reasonable person would look and say, there's something not right here. The Russian authorities told us that we've got to keep an eye on these guys. They saw that they were hanging out with terrorists. We need to follow them. Your Honor, I swear this oath. Can I please have a search warrant? That's legitimate. That's been a part of our law enforcement since the dawn of the Republic. No one that I know of is against that, as long as it's a reasonable search and there is probable cause. And it says that they particularly have to describe the place to be searched and the person or thing to be seized. Is anyone particularly describing why the email accounts and the text messages and the phone records of virtually every adult American in this country have to be seized and stored? Friends, it's a criminal act against the Constitution. The people who have sworn to uphold the Constitution are violating it. And then finally, the Fifth Amendment, just a small part of it, it says, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Well, do you know of any due process of law that involves a vote from Congress in which we all got to participate through our elected officials that would say that we all just surrendered our liberty and we surrendered our property, our intellectual property, our relationships, our accounts? We surrendered them all. Can somebody tell me what due process of law has happened here? This is statism. This is tyranny. Which brings me all the way back to Edward Snowden. He said that his greatest fear is not for his life. He says, I can go to sleep at night knowing that I did the right thing. He said his greatest fear is that nothing will change. And if nothing changes, it will be because we, the people of this republic, are so numb, we're so drunk with bread and circuses that we don't care enough to seize back our God-given rights. The bread, the circuses, just the concern for our daily food, or that the government give us food stamps or the means to eat, and the entertainment, which now is literally unending. That is seducing us. That is polluting our minds. It's keeping us from seeing and fighting for that which matters. Ben Franklin said, and I quote, "People willing to trade their freedom for temporary security deserve neither and will lose both." Friend, we're headed for a police state. And if we are willing to surrender our liberty for some temporary security, we're deserving neither, according to Ben Franklin. And I fear that he's right. We're going to lose both. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is While Supplies Last. Hi, friend, I'm Randall Terry. George Washington said, "Few men have virtue to withstand the highest bidder." We're about to embark on another PG, maybe PG-13 segment, probably not appropriate for small children. So if you've got them in the room, I suggest you scoot them out or hit TiVo and film this or watch us later online. I want to talk again about the Grammy Awards, where some people made news, and we've got some lessons that we can learn. And I want to touch on something that might even be a little more sensitive than the Grammy Awards themselves. But first, the awards. Of course, 33 couples, most of whom were same gender, were, quote, married by Queen Latifah. This was an ambush to most Americans that upset many. And then, of course, there was the Beyonce dance, which garnered enormous outrage from moms and dads because of how scantily she was clad and the movements of the song in her dance. And then Katy Perry did a song that several people online said was either directly out of a witchcraft playbook or some type of occult dance. But if you even see clips of it, we're not going to show them on TV because I frankly don't want to glorify it. But it was satanic. I mean, it truly was satanic. And I started thinking, parents are rightly outraged. There's something on at 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock, depending on the time zone that you're on, where there are kids watching TV, that the sultry people involved are so calloused towards the impact of young people that they would put this on the air. But then I thought, well, it's not that they're calloused. For many of them, it's that they believe in it. They actually want to recruit young people, seduce their minds, ultimately seduce their behavior, to embrace these various lifestyles and behaviors as normal, as laudable. They want kids to look up to them. They want kids to imitate them. So that's why they're doing it. But then I thought, you know what? There are some elements that are more insidious on television. For example, I want to play you this clip from Disney. Now watch, and again, if you've got small children in the room, I suggest you get them out. And then I want you to ponder with me just how insidious this is.
Charlie, honey, you ready for your play date?
Yay!
Who's coming over?
Taylor. I invited her parents, too.
So we're all having a play date?
Honey, this one is actually going to be fun. I met the mom, Susan. She's really nice.
Oh, I met her. I thought her name was Cheryl.
No, it's Susan.
Are you sure?
Am I sure that I'm right and you're wrong? Always. Okay, that must be done. Hi!
Taylor!
Hi, Susan.
Hi. Amy, this is Taylor's other mom, Cheryl.
Oh, hi. This is my husband, Bob.
Hey, nice to meet you. Come on in. Come on in. Taylor has 2 moms.
Nothing gets past you, Bob.
Now, what's the difference? What's the difference between Miley Cyrus or Katy Perry or Beyonce or any number of these people and the clip that we just saw? The difference is, among other things, that the Disney clip is, let's call it, the beautiful face of evil. You've got the little girl waiting. You've got the other little girl running in. You've got 2 very attractive, blonde mommies. Remember the book years ago that came out, Heather Has 2 Mommies? Well, now the same theme is on television. And in some ways, that clip we just saw is more insidious. When Beyonce or Katy Perry do what they do, you turn off the channel, you say, this is an outrage, I can't believe it. It's up in your face. But the clip from Disney draws the person in and makes the young child say, Mommy, why does that girl have two mommies? And then you've got the little girl. I mean, is the one little girl supposed to be mean to the other little girl? Are the parents supposed to say, what you're doing is wrong? Why are you doing this? No, it's, hey, come on in. Of course she has two mommies. It's kind of like Maude was an entire generation ago, where you laugh people into spiritual oblivion. But the goal of the Disney clip is the same as the goal of the Beyonce or the Katy Perry clips. The goal is to bring people into a worldview and then into a series of behaviors. The goal is to get inside the head of young people and then affect the way they think and the way that they behave. And in some ways, the Disney clip is worse because it's far more inane. It's little bits of poison that ultimately take somebody down the same path. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. It is a fine thing to be honest, but it is also very important to be right. Sir Winston Churchill. Many people don't know that Katy Perry started her career as a gospel singer. Her father, Keith Hudson, is a fairly well-known evangelical preacher. When he saw his daughter perform a certain song on stage and saw 20,000 young people embracing the sad lesbian message of the song, he says that he stood up and he wept and he wept and he wept. And the UK Sun, a newspaper in England, has reported that he, in one of his sermons, referred to his daughter as, quote, a devil child, close quote. He has been begging people to pray for her. He wants her to be restored to the Lord. I want to use this one moment to talk about the distinction between breaking the rules and changing the rules. I have a good friend who, before his conversion, him and his wife were going to church, and they were cohabiting. They were living together before they got married. And somebody at church confronted him on it, and he was a little bit miffed and hurt, but they ended up getting married, and he ended up going to the church, and him and his wife have a strong relationship with the Lord. And he said, well, how can I speak to somebody else when they say to me that I'm homosexual and I'm just doing what comes right to me? And I said to him, did you repent of what you did? And he said, yes. I said, well, there's the difference. Breaking the rules is one thing. We know we've broken the rules. We ask for forgiveness. The problem comes when you try and change the rules. Woe to them who put darkness for light, who put light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet, who put sweet for bitter, who literally try and change the definitions of good and evil, right and wrong, and who try and change the rules. That's the problem that we're facing, folks. We've got to hold fast to what is good. Don't change the rules.